Imagine walking through a prehistoric village 12,000 years ago. You pass dozens of faces, hunters returning with game, children playing by firelight, and elders sharing stories beneath star-filled skies. Every single person you encounter stares back at you with the same dark brown eyes that have gazed out from human faces for millions of years. This was humanity's universal signature. From our earliest Australopithecus ancestors 3 million years ago, through the Neanderthals, to the sophisticated Homo sapiens spreading across continents, brown eyes were as fundamental to being human as having 2 arms or breathing air. However, the ancient DNA of Cheddar Man, a hunter-gatherer who lived in the caves of Britain 10 millennia ago, revealed a striking visual contrast. Despite living in northern latitudes, he possessed dark skin and dark hair. But looking out from that face were piercing, brilliant blue eyes. But somewhere near the shores of the Black Sea, in a moment that would rewrite the human story, a single baby opened eyes unlike any that had existed before. Not because they contained something new, but because something ancient had broken. A genetic switch had dimmed. A biological dimmer had malfunctioned. That child became patient zero for one of evolution's most successful accidents. Today, over 700 million people carry their exact genetic fingerprint. It is an ancient inherited glitch that created not a new pigment, but a masterpiece of optical physics that tricks light itself. The evidence carved in bone and preserved in DNA tells an extraordinary story of uniformity stretching back through deep time. When scientists extract genetic material from ancient European skeletons, whether Mesolithic hunter-gatherers or early Neolithic farmers, the results remain consistent. Brown eyes, without exception. This wasn't simply a regional pattern. Archaeological genetics reveals that human populations across Africa, Asia, and the earliest European settlements shared this trait universally. The gene responsible for producing brown melanin pigment, called OCA2, functioned at full capacity in every human lineage. Think of it as humanity's original factory setting, a biological constant as reliable as the need for food or shelter. The sheer scope of this uniformity becomes staggering when viewed across evolutionary time. Homo erectus, spreading from Africa nearly 2 million years ago, carried brown-eyed genes. Neanderthals roaming Ice Age Europe possessed the same ocular signature. The sophisticated cave painters of Lascaux, the mammoth hunters of Siberia, the first maritime explorers reaching Australia, all gazed upon their worlds through irises rich with brown melanin. Even as human populations adapted to drastically different environments, developing lighter skin in northern latitudes, evolving varied body types for different climates, creating thousands of distinct cultures, eye color remained locked in place. Natural selection had apparently settled this question millions of years earlier, and nothing challenged its verdict. Yet within this vast tapestry of human genetic consistency lay the seeds of dramatic change. Somewhere in the fertile regions surrounding the Black Sea, where early agricultural communities began transforming human civilization, the longest unbroken chain in our species' physical appearance was about to snap. The mutation that broke this ancient pattern didn't announce itself with fanfare. No one recognized its significance as it first appeared in one infant's cells. But that tiny alteration, invisible to the naked eye, yet revolutionary in its implications, would prove that sometimes evolution's most profound changes begin not with survival advantages or environmental pressures, but with pure accident. The mutation that shattered millions of years of genetic consistency occurred not in the gene that produces brown pigment, but in its controller. Scientists from the University of Copenhagen traced this pivotal moment to between 6,000 and 10,000 years ago, when a single individual living near the Black Sea experienced a critical malfunction in their HERC2 gene. HERC2 operates as the master switch for OCA2, the actual melanin production factory. For millennia, this genetic partnership had functioned flawlessly, with HERC2 keeping OCA2 running at maximum output, flooding human irises with rich brown pigment. The mutation didn't destroy this system entirely. Instead, it broke the switch, turning down melanin production from full blast to barely functioning. This wasn't gradual evolutionary change unfolding across generations. This was a single-letter alteration in one person's DNA, a genetic typo that would rewrite human appearance forever. The affected baby looked out at the world through eyes unlike any that had existed in the entire history of our species. The most compelling evidence for this patient zero origin lies in the DNA of every blue-eyed person alive today. Regardless of whether they trace ancestry to Scandinavia, Britain, or Eastern Europe, all carry an identical genetic signature, the exact same HERK2 mutation inherited from that single Black Sea ancestor. This shared fingerprint proves beyond doubt that blue eyes didn't evolve independently in different populations. They spread from one source, carried by the descendants of one individual. The timing aligns perfectly with humanity's great agricultural transformation. As farming communities expanded from the fertile regions around the Black Sea into Europe, they carried this genetic accident with them. The mutation that began in one person's cells became embedded in migrating populations that would eventually populate entire continents. Modern genetic analysis reveals the stark simplicity of this inheritance pattern. Every blue-eyed person possesses 2 copies of the broken HERC2 switch, one inherited from each parent. This recessive pattern explains why blue eyes can skip generations, hiding in family lineages before suddenly reappearing when 2 carriers produce children together. The broken switch doesn't just create one alternative to brown eyes, it produces a spectrum of reduced melanin phenotypes. Depending on precisely how much the HERC2 mutation dims the OCA2 output, the result can be steel gray, pale blue, or vivid sapphire. When tiny amounts of residual melanin mix with this dimmed system, green and hazel variations emerge. This single ancestor's genetic legacy now exists in nearly 1 billion people worldwide, making the HERC2 mutation one of the most successful random events in human evolutionary history. Blue eyes reveal themselves as one of nature's most elegant deceptions when examined under the lens of physics rather than biology. The stunning colors that have captivated humans for 10 millennia contain not a single molecule of blue pigment. What we perceive as azure, sapphire, or steel gray emerges from the same optical phenomenon that paints our sky. The architecture of the human iris consists of 2 distinct layers working in precise coordination. The back layer, called the epithelium, remains uniformly dark in all humans, a light-absorbing foundation that prevents illumination from scattering randomly within the eye. The front layer, the stroma, determines what we perceive as eye color through its melanin content and structural composition. In brown eyes, the stroma fills densely with melanin granules that absorb virtually all incoming light wavelengths. The abundant pigment captures photons before they can interact with the underlying tissue structure, creating the rich chocolate and amber tones that dominated human appearance for millions of years. The HERC2 mutation transforms this optical environment dramatically. With melanin production severely reduced, the stroma becomes a translucent, nearly colorless matrix filled with microscopic collagen fibers and cellular debris. When light penetrates this altered landscape, physics takes control of perception. Longer wavelengths, reds, oranges, and yellows, pass through the melanin-depleted stroma like sunlight through clear water, ultimately reaching the dark epithelium where they disappear through absorption. Shorter blue wavelengths encounter a different fate entirely. These high-energy photons collide with the collagen fibers and scatter in multiple directions through a process called Tyndall scattering. This phenomenon explains why blue eyes can appear to shift color dramatically under different lighting conditions. Fluorescent office lighting emphasizes certain scattered wavelengths, while golden sunset illumination brings out entirely different blue tones. The eye itself remains unchanged. Only the quality of incoming light and the resulting scattering patterns vary. The mutation's incomplete suppression of melanin production creates the full spectrum of non-brown eye colors through subtle variations in this optical system. Small amounts of residual yellow-brown pigment, when combined with scattered blue light, produce the green eyes found throughout Celtic populations. Gray eyes result from different collagen fiber densities that scatter light more uniformly across the visible spectrum. This broken genetic switch thus functions as evolution's accidental artist, creating a living kaleidoscope from what began as a simple manufacturing defect in the cellular machinery of pigment production. The HERC2 mutation, operates with the precision of a laboratory instrument designed to titrate melanin production across a carefully calibrated spectrum. Rather than eliminating brown pigment, which would produce the pink eyes of albinism, this genetic dimmer switch reduces OCA2 activity to roughly 15% of normal function. This partial suppression creates a biological rheostat that generates the entire palette of light-colored eyes through minute variations in melanin density. The inheritance mechanics reveal the mutation's elegant simplicity. Blue-eyed individuals carry 2 copies of the broken HERC2 switch, inheriting identical defective versions from both parents. This recessive pattern creates an absolute genetic barrier. 2 blue-eyed parents cannot produce brown-eyed offspring, since neither possesses a functional copy to pass along. The melanin factory remains permanently dimmed in their children, locked at the same reduced output that characterized their Black Sea ancestor. This dimmer switch mechanism explains the remarkable consistency of blue eye inheritance across thousands of generations. Unlike complex traits influenced by multiple genes, the HERC2 mutation functions as a simple on-off toggle. Either the melanin production runs at full capacity, creating brown eyes, or it operates at dramatically reduced levels, producing the light eye spectrum. Carriers with 1 functional and 1 broken copy typically display brown eyes, since a single working HERC2 gene provides sufficient melanin output to dominate the phenotype. The mutation's effects extend beyond simple blue coloration into a sophisticated range of phenotypic expressions. Green eyes represent the dimmer switch operating at its upper threshold, where residual melanin production creates just enough yellow-brown pigment to interact with scattered blue light. This combination produces the emerald and jade tones, found predominantly in populations of Celtic and Germanic ancestry. Hazel eyes demonstrate an even more complex interaction, where irregular melanin distribution creates sectored patterns mixing brown and green elements within a single iris. The HERC2 mutation's impact on melanin production remains strictly localized to ocular tissue, leaving skin and hair pigmentation systems entirely unaffected. This targeted specificity explains why blue-eyed individuals can possess any hair color or skin tone. Their melanin factories function normally everywhere except the iris. The broken switch affects only the cellular machinery operating within that precise anatomical location. The blue eye mutation faced extinction before it conquered continents. In a world where every survival advantage mattered, reduced melanin offered no protection against ultraviolet radiation, improved night vision, or enhanced hunting ability. Yet this apparently neutral trait became one of evolution's most spectacular success stories, spreading from a single ancestor to nearly 1 billion descendants across 40 centuries. Sexual selection provides the most compelling explanation for this unlikely triumph. In prehistoric communities where brown eyes represented absolute uniformity, the appearance of brilliant blue irises would have created an unprecedented visual experience. Anthropologists theorize that this stunning novelty made carriers irresistibly attractive as potential mates, triggering preferential reproduction that amplified the trait's frequency within local populations. The archaeological record supports this attraction hypothesis through indirect evidence. Blue eye frequencies reach their highest concentrations in regions where early agricultural communities established permanent settlements, precisely the social environments where mate selection could operate over extended periods. Mobile hunter-gatherer societies might encounter blue-eyed individuals briefly, but settled farming communities provided the sustained contact necessary for sexual selection to drive genetic change. This reproductive advantage compounded across generations through simple mathematics. If blue-eyed individuals produced even slightly more offspring than their brown-eyed neighbors, perhaps 1 additional child per couple over their lifetime, the mutation's frequency would double every few centuries. Over the span of 10,000 years, this modest advantage could transform a single carrier into millions of descendants. The paternity signal theory offers another intriguing evolutionary mechanism. 2 blue-eyed parents produce exclusively blue-eyed children through the mutation's recessive inheritance pattern. In societies where paternal certainty influenced resource allocation, childcare, and inheritance rights, This visible genetic marker could have provided invaluable social benefits. Men might have preferentially chosen blue-eyed partners to ensure clear paternity indicators, while communities might have granted higher status to families displaying consistent eye color inheritance. Population genetics reveals how the founder effect amplified these advantages dramatically. Early farming communities expanding from the Black Sea region often consisted of small, closely related groups carrying limited genetic diversity. If the original blue-eyed ancestor belonged to one of these successful founding populations, the mutation would have spread automatically as these communities grew and established new settlements across Europe. The trait's remarkable persistence through periods of population bottleneck, including plague epidemics, climate shifts, and warfare, demonstrates its deep entrenchment in European gene pools. Mathematical models suggest that purely random genetic drift should have eliminated such a recent mutation dozens of times throughout its history. Its survival implies sustained positive selection pressures, maintaining blue eyes at frequencies far above statistical chance. Modern prevalence patterns trace this ancient success story with geographical precision. The highest blue eye frequencies occur along the expansion routes taken by Neolithic farmers spreading agricultural technology across Europe. These living genetic maps reveal how one person's accidental mutation rode the wave of humanity's agricultural revolution, transforming from a single broken gene into a defining characteristic of entire populations. The spread of blue eyes across continents reads like a genetic atlas of human migration, with each population's eye color frequencies marking the precise routes our ancestors traveled from their Black Sea homeland. This living map, written in DNA and carried in the faces of nearly a billion people, traces one of the most remarkable journeys in human prehistory. The mutation's highest concentrations cluster around the Baltic Sea, where frequencies reach 85% in some Lithuanian and Estonian populations. The linear pottery culture, among Europe's earliest farming societies, expanded along the Danube River corridor around 7,500 years ago, establishing settlements that match precisely with modern blue-eyed distribution patterns. These pioneer communities carried domesticated crops, livestock, pottery techniques, and the HERC2 mutation across a landscape previously inhabited only by brown-eyed hunter-gatherers. The Atlantic coastlines tell a parallel story of maritime expansion. Blue-eye frequencies along Ireland's western shores, Scotland's highlands, and Norway's fjords reflect seaborne migrations that carried the mutation beyond the continental routes. These coastal populations developed distinct genetic signatures while maintaining the fundamental HERC2 alteration, proving that multiple waves of blue-eyed ancestors reached Europe's furthest edges through different pathways. Central Asian populations reveal the mutation's eastward journey along ancient trade routes. Kazakhstan, Afghanistan, and parts of Iran display significant blue-eyed minorities, genetic echoes of the same agricultural expansion that populated Europe. These frequencies drop sharply at the geographical barriers that historically limited European contact: the Himalayas, the Gobi Desert, and the dense forests of Siberia. The mutation spread only as far as its human carriers could travel and establish sustainable communities. DNA analysis of ancient remains provides direct evidence of this expansion timeline. Early Neolithic skeletons from Germany's Rhine Valley, dating to 7,000 years ago, already carried the HERC2 mutation. Bronze Age burials throughout Scandinavia show increasing blue-eyed frequencies over successive centuries, documenting the trait's gradual establishment in northern populations. These archaeological genetics confirm that blue eyes didn't evolve independently across different regions. They spread mechanically through human movement and intermarriage. The mutation's absence from isolated populations offers compelling negative evidence for this migration theory. Australian Aboriginal communities, sub-Saharan African groups, and Native American populations all separated from Eurasian contact before the HERC2 mutation emerged, display zero natural occurrence of blue eyes. This genetic boundary precisely mirrors the geographical and temporal limits of early agricultural expansion from the Black Sea region. Modern Europe's eye color distribution still reflects these ancient migration patterns with startling accuracy. The gradual transition from predominantly blue-eyed Scandinavia through mixed-eyed Germany to brown-eyed Southern Europe follows the same gradient established by Neolithic farmers millennia ago. 10,000 years of subsequent history, Roman conquests, medieval migrations, industrial urbanization, have failed to erase this fundamental genetic signature of humanity's agricultural revolution. The story of blue eyes stands as evolution's ultimate demonstration that a single individual's DNA can permanently alter our entire species. This 10,000-year-old genetic accident proves that evolutionary change doesn't always require millions of years of gradual adaptation. Sometimes it happens in the span of a single generation, through one broken gene in one person's cells. Consider the mathematical impossibility this represents. One human, among perhaps a few million people alive at the time, experienced a mutation that now lives in nearly 1 billion faces worldwide. That solitary genetic alteration, a single letter change in the vast library of human DNA, has been copied, transmitted, and preserved through 400 generations of human reproduction. No empire, no monument, no written language from that era has achieved such enduring global reach. The HERC2 mutation challenges our fundamental assumptions about evolutionary timelines. While most significant changes in human appearance require tens of thousands of years to establish themselves, blue eyes conquered continents in mere millennia. This acceleration occurred not through survival advantages or environmental pressures, but through the sheer power of human attraction and social selection operating on an unprecedented scale. The trait's persistence through countless historical catastrophes, plague epidemics that killed half of Europe's population, ice ages that scattered human communities, wars that reshaped entire gene pools, reveals its remarkable entrenchment in our species' genetic architecture. Random chance should have eliminated such a recent mutation dozens of times throughout its history. Its survival suggests that blue eyes became so deeply valued by human societies that they actively protected and perpetuated this ancient accident. Perhaps most remarkably, this genetic legacy continues expanding in the modern world. Immigration patterns, global travel, and international marriage are carrying the Black Sea ancestors' mutation into populations that had remained separate for 10 millennia. Children born today in regions that never knew blue eyes are opening their eyes to reveal colors that trace directly back to that mysterious individual near ancient shorelines. The blue-eyed story transforms our understanding of human connection across deep time. Every person with light-colored eyes shares not just a similar appearance, but an identical genetic ancestry, stretching back to one moment, one birth, one random cellular event that changed everything. In a very real sense, blue-eyed strangers meeting anywhere in the world are distant cousins, united by DNA inherited from their common prehistoric ancestor. This ancient accident became evolution's proof that revolutionary change can emerge from the most ordinary moments. Somewhere near the Black Sea, a baby opened eyes that no human had ever possessed, unaware that their broken gene would echo through millennia. One person's genetic glitch became humanity's most successful error, a 10,000-year-old optical illusion that permanently rewrote the appearance of our species and proved that sometimes the most profound changes begin with the simplest accidents. The next time you look into blue eyes, whether your own reflection or a stranger's gaze, you're witnessing a 10,000-year-old optical illusion born from humanity's most successful genetic accident. Behind those brilliant colors lies no blue pigment at all, only scattered light bouncing off the broken remnants of an ancient melanin factory, dimmed by a single ancestor's faulty genetic switch. From one mysterious individual near the Black Sea to nearly 1 billion people today, this story reveals the staggering power hidden within human DNA. The Black Sea ancestors' legacy keeps expanding, carried by children who open their eyes to reveal colors that trace directly back to that first moment when something ancient broke, something new emerged, and human appearance changed forever. One person's broken gene became evolution's masterpiece, a reminder that revolutionary change can spring from the simplest accidents, and that within our DNA lies the power to rewrite the story of our entire species.